Lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD, is a psychedelic drug currently illegal in the United States. It is classified as a Schedule I drug, which means that it has no currently accepted medical use, and it also is seen as to have a high potential for abuse. However, that statement is at least half wrong. The National Institute on Drug Abuse considers LSD a non-addictive drug since it does not produce compulsive drug-seeking behavior. The contradiction and misinformation born from the Nixon-era U.S. government has unfairly labeled LSD as taboo and detestable. However, I believe that the legalization, or at the very least the criminalization of LSD, would have a positive impact on the people living within the United States. First of all, I want to discuss the positives in using the drug recreationally. After that, I'm going to go into some of the medicinal uses of the drug and how those can help users. And finally, I'll bring up the black market of LSD and how the legalization of LSD could actually potentially save lives. There's numerous beneficial recreational effects. In a study titled LSD Therapeutic Effects of the Psychedelic Experience, performed at Stanford University, 93 subjects were administered LSD in a supportive setting following intensive preparation. Immediately and months after the experience, subjects were asked a series of questions and answers to kind of follow up on the experiment. And I believe that the answers for those questions really show how positive you feel when you take the drug. So a year after doing LSD, 90% of the subjects said that they felt more ability to love in general. Even more impressive, 91% of the subjects said that doing LSD was the greatest thing that ever happened to them, which I think is a pretty impressive statistic. The positive effects don't stop there. Smaller doses of the drug don't really get you to the conventional psychedelic level, but those effects are actually still useful. For example, in Silicon Valley, business professionals are using the drug to help them focus and be more productive at work. However, no study, this is a pretty new trend, so no study has been done to yet acquire quantitative data on that. But Dr. James Fadiman, PhD of psychology from Stanford University and founder of Sophia University, states that microdosing seems to improve a vast range of conditions and in general makes people feel better and more focused. Onto the medicinal effects of the drug. One of them is helping terminally ill patients cope with their condition and the prospect of dying. LSD is kind of known to coax out potentially life-changing realizations in users and help create kind of just fresh perspectives on life. So going on that, recently researchers in Switzerland have been administering pretty sizable doses of LSD to terminally ill patients, most of them afflicted with cancer. The results have been reassuring and phenomenal. Cancer patients under the influence of LSD experience relief from the terror of dying. 2 months after the dose, patients were asked questions via the State Trait Anxiety Inventory, which is basically just a series of questions meant to isolate and measure anxiety. Researchers found a positive trend with a significance percentage of 2.1%, and they stated that these results indicate that when administered safely, LSD can reduce anxiety, suggesting that larger controlled studies are warranted. Finally, I want to discuss another point that is very important for today's recreational user. The black market of LSD today is riddled with fake LSD, commonly known as N-bomb, an acronym for just its chemical name. The N-bomb is neurologically toxic, with over 17 deaths reported from an overdose, according to the DEA. On the other hand, there has not been one single case of a death from overdose on LSD, according to a study published in 2008 in a neuroscience scientific journal. However, the thing is, both N-bomb and LSD share the exact same appearance. They are both like a clear liquid, usually dropped on a little small piece of paper. This can be a very scary prospect for a user in today's world. 5 doses of LSD can be potentially very powerful, but the effects of that are going to be gone in about 24 hours. 5 doses of N-bomb can be fatal. You can just die right there. So the legalization of LSD would allow the government to regulate the sale of LSD, leaving no room for N-bomb or any other research chemical masquerading as LSD. The positive effects, both recreationally and medicinally, and potential for regulation of LSD really show the positive impact LSD could have if legalized. From safe recreational uses to medicinal and life-changing uses, LSD definitely has a place in today's society.
All right, the proposition's clear, the contents are previewed. I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be some controversy on the subject, so you seem like you're in good shape there. The signposting of the secondary points as you get into the speech is pretty good, except on the third point where once you get to that argument, I think you mostly give an explanation of what the argument is without giving us a declarative statement about the inference that you're trying to draw there. I do think that that's one place where there's a little bit of a problem when it comes to your reasoning, and I'll mention that in just a second. The data that you cite is pretty solid. You've got sources presented on most of the information, although sometimes there is some ambiguity as to, like I said, how we should take it. The quote, "It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me," you know, that makes it sound like they're still high when they're talking about this. I'm not exactly sure that that's, you know, that enhances your credibility there. But, I mean, you do quote it pretty directly, so that's pretty straightforward. The thing I was talking about on the third point is that you make the assumption that if it's legalized, that would crowd out the other stuff, and I don't know that that's the case. That's, you know, why is one thing going to disappear because the other thing is available? There are all kinds of reasons why this kind of stuff continues. It's like cost, accessibility, you know, willingness to experiment, and the world's full of people that, you know, they don't care one way or the other about their brain cells, so they're happy to. And how would you know? You know, unless it's, you know, got the label on it, government approved LSD, you know, certified 100%. And well, I think the problem is that even then, I do think you run into an issue, and the idea that would occur or that would make a difference is it's an assumption rather than something that's demonstrated. All right, thank you.